Hey there folks, today we are looking at Patchwork, the two-player tile placement game where you're making a quilt. Fun concept and idea. It is a two-player game only. We're going to teach you how to play, then give you some tips at the end as well to hopefully get a little bit better of a score. And if you do like this content, want to see more of it, like and subscribe, helps out a bunch. Thanks. Let's go ahead and dive on into it. Alright, so for the setup of Patchwork, this is fairly simple. Each player is going to get one of these boards right here. This is going to be where you're putting, making your quilt, and then you're going to have 5 of these buttons as well. This is what you're going to use as currency, so you start with 5 of those. You're going to take all of these pieces and you're going to put them in a circle around the time board. The time board in the middle right here, we're going to have each of the players' little time tokens right there. So you're going to take, it's going to take a different amount of time, which you can see on each of these pieces. That takes 3 times. So you're going to be moving this throughout the game. So that's the time token right there. Those both start on the 0, but they'll work their way into the middle, and that's what triggers the game end. And then we're going to have these little patches as well, and you can see the colors. They just match up, so you put those there. And when you pass one of those, the first person that passes them gets to put those on their board. So that's how the patches work as well. So that's what we're doing in the middle. And then you're going to take this guy right here. You're going to find the smallest little patch right here, which is this guy, the 2. It's not focusing very well. The 2. And we're going to put this guy on this side of it, and then it's going to be, this is going to go clockwise, and that's going to give you some options of what patches you can choose from. Lastly, we're going to have this patch over here, or this little bonus token. So if you're able to completely get your 7x7 grid, you are going to get 7 bonus buttons for being able to do that. This is more than 7, but if you're able to get a 7x7, you get 7 buttons. And then in here, you're going to have all of your buttons as well. So that is the setup of the game. Now let's look at the actions that you can take. So there are 2 main actions that you can do during the game. One, you can move your time token to gain buttons. And so you're going to move your time token directly in front of the opponent player, and you're going to receive that many buttons. So in this instance, if green did that, they would gain 1 button. If yellow did that on their turn, 1, 2, they would take 2 buttons. Now if someone were way up here, and I were back here, you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're always going right in front, but you're getting as many buttons as spaces you're moving. So that's the one action that you can do. The other action is to take a piece. So you can look at the little neutral token here, and the 3 in front of it are your options of what you can choose. So if we wanted to take this piece, we could take that piece right there, and then put it somewhere in here. Of course, we would have to pay for it, so it's going to cost us 3 buttons. We'll go ahead and pay for that just like that. And it's going to take 3 time for us to do that, so we'll go ahead and move 3 spaces forward. Then the last thing we're going to do over here is we're going to take this and move it to where that piece was. So now you can see on the next turn, there's going to be a different option, a different 3 that someone could choose. That's what you're going to do if you select that action. Now we're going to continue doing these actions over and over and moving up and up. A couple of things to notice on this board right here. You can see these buttons. So let's say we ended up going past this button right here with some action. As soon as that happens, you're going to grab your income. And so you're going to look at all the buttons that are on here. So let's say maybe we had these 2 pieces on here. You look at the buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is going to be your income that you're just going to take from the bank. So that's one thing to keep in mind as you're taking pieces. This one is a pretty spendy one. It costs 7 buttons and 6 time, but it does have 3 buttons on there for your income. So trying to find that balance is always interesting, but that is how the buttons work on this board right here. So you can see all these different buttons. Those are all going to be income turns. Another thing we mentioned already, but if we come up and past this space right here that has this on it, we would get to take this bonus space and then bonus piece and then put it anywhere on our board, and it's the first person to cross that space. So if green crosses that space later on, it's not going to matter. It's already taken. So that's an incentive to maybe be ahead of the other player just a little bit. When you get to the very end here, the game is going to be over for you. Now, if your opponent needs to continue and finish out their round, maybe they were back here, they might still have a couple of turns left, and that is okay. As soon as both players get into the middle, you're going to count up your final scores to see who won the game. All right, so for the game end scoring, you're going to take a look at your board and you're going to take a look at the buttons that you have. So you're going to count up all of those 10, 15, 16, 17, 18 right there. And then if you do have a 7x7, you've got the 7 extra. So that would be 25 right there. And then you're going to subtract 2 for any spaces that are open. So we said 25, 23, 21, 19, 17, 15. So for any spaces that are open, you are going to lose points, but that's how you do the final scoring. You're just counting up the buttons that you have, plus this bonus if you have completed that. That's a 7x7 grid anywhere here. So we can see right here and there is a 7x7 grid we have completely filled in. Then you're just going to subtract these spaces in here, any spaces that are missing. And that is how you play and score Patchwork. All right, on to a few tips. This is a fairly straightforward and simple game. This is a great kind of Sunday afternoon game for 2 players. It's something that I do really enjoy, just like building, and honestly the score is not that important to me, but if you want to be a little more strategic, I'll tell you a few quick tips that I have learned. One is definitely just managing the timing of this game. And so the timing is incredibly important. There was one game where I just really went heavy after getting as many buttons as I could, and it took so much time on the time tracker that I had so much open space left. So you're going to want to try and find that balance between getting buttons, because that's obviously how you actually get points in the game, but you're going to lose a lot of points for not having completed spaces out. You're going to lose more spaces for those things you don't have complete. So try to find that balance of maybe taking some larger pieces like this one. This costs 7 buttons, but it only takes 1 time. And so putting that on and it covering 5 spaces is really pretty good. But obviously you want to balance that out, because again, it's the buttons that score you points. So some of these other ones that get you a lot of buttons may be worth it as well. Another thing to keep in mind is just looking at where you are on the income tracker. And so earlier on in the game, taking this piece that costs a lot of buttons may be worth it, because it's going to get me 3 buttons for income every single time. So if I have like 4 or 5 buttons left to take on my income, overall that's going to pay for itself quite a bit. So that is kind of a balance you can look at, is the cost of this and the buttons that it's giving me, is that going to, within the income turns that it has left, is that going to pay for itself or not? And then trying to balance out the amount of time that it takes. Another thing is just really to focus on trying to get a 7x7 if you can. Having 7 bonus points is actually really huge. That's something that's really important. Thinking through methodically a little bit when to take your income turns versus when to take a piece and add it on. You can take some really nice income turns where maybe you don't want to take a piece, or maybe you're saving up for a piece later on. And so that's something to keep in mind, is where this little neutral guy is and where he's moving along. Maybe there's a piece that's too far away that you're wanting to save up for and make sure that you get. You could take an income turn so that you don't move that, so the next person moves, so that you're able to then take that piece that you're eyeing that fits perfectly in the space you need to cover, that type of thing. Another thing that's really helpful is if you are able to get some of these bonus 1 pieces right here, those are really helpful just to be able to fill in some of those spots that you won't be able to fill in with anything else. And so if you're able to get some of those, in general, there's kind of a balance between wanting to be ahead of the other player and not. It seems like it's good to not be ahead of the player often, but obviously there's that bonus that really helps you as well. So I hope that gives you just a few little tips in Patchwork. Really fun game, really nice. Best of luck on your next game of Patchwork. Thanks.